everyone hear me okay still?
Okay.
Yeah? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, excellent. All right, now, I'm still on with towers, so I may get cut off here, but I'll try and get you guys some info as we climb out here. Right now, on our left is the main town of Kahului. It is the largest town here on Maui, and right where the buildings get a little taller is Wailuku. That's the capital of Maui. Now, Maui itself is the second largest island in the Hawaiian island chain, and it houses roughly about 152,000 people that live here year round, and it sees a little under 2.5 million visitors a year.
Dream that you dare to, why, oh why can't
Now, as we make our way up here, they just released me, gives me a little freedom to talk to everyone. Everyone comfy, AC blowing good? Excellent. Now, we're here on the north side of the West Maui Mountains, and the West Maui Mountains and the Hana Forest Reserve behind us make up the second wettest place in the Hawaiian Islands. They see a little under 400 inches of rain a year. That's over an inch a day. Or if you were going to translate that into snow, that's like 330 feet of snow. So it's quite a bit of moisture that falls in this area annually. As we make our way up here, we're entering into the Waihe'e Valley. It's kind of a treat for it to be open. A lot of times it's covered in rain and clouds. Now, you can hike the trail on our right to this point right up here called the Waihe'e Ridgeline Trail. And that's the farthest point that anyone can make it here into the West Maui's. Everything else that I'm going to show you up here is going to be one of 7 of the National Forest Reserves, and it's restricted and protected, and there's no hiking trails and no roads.
Don't have any animals here, do they? Don't have any animals here, do they?
The
Like
largest animal anywhere on Maui is going to be access deer, pigs, and goats. And access deer are like half the size of a whitetail or a mule.
way down there.
Now, as we make our way up here, we're going to transition high on the West Maui's because I don't get up here that often. Now, as we come across here, we're going to cut to the next valley known as Honokahau Valley. And as we come across, you'll see there's no hiking trails and no roads. And they basically try and keep it this way to eliminate the human footprint. Now, as we come up here, this is going to be Honokahau Valley. It is one of those 7 national forest reserves. The walls are really steep, so the wind can kind of whip through it and get a little bumpy. I'll try and keep it smooth for you guys, but it's absolutely stunning. Now, as we come in here, you can see that vegetation is really thick back here. And that's because we're flying over the top of a double canopy rainforest. You can see all those predominant trees that are very pronounced, but then you got that lighter vegetation that looks like it should be bushes or shrubs, and it's actually a second canopy of tree cover, and the ground is quite a bit farther below it.
What was this called again?
Honokahau Valley. And if you haven't figured out, the reason I'm taking you back here is for Honokahau Falls right here in the back of the valley. It is the tallest waterfall on the island, stretches 1,700 feet high. It's in 2 tiers. The top tier is 1,100 feet, the bottom tier is 600 feet. And it's all fed from rainwater, and it's flowing really nicely. Now, as we make our way up here, we're going to transition out Honokahau Valley, and it really gives you an idea how thick that vegetation is on the sides of the walls. These are trees growing here, so it gives you also an insight how much moisture or rainfall falls in here to sustain that kind of plant life.
So how tall would those trees be?
It depends on where they're at. These aren't the tallest in the rainforest. They're over by Hana, and those ones grow upwards of over 150 feet, but these ones definitely do hold their own. Not quite that tall, though. Now, as we come up here, we're actually going to transition out of Honokahau Valley, and we're going to come out over the northwest side of the West Maui's, and this is also known as the Kapalua side of the island. Now, as we come out of the valley here, right on our left, you're going to start to see a golf course coming into view. This is called the Plantation Course, or the Kapalua Course. It's pretty famous. It used to house the Sony Open for many years, and they had the Hyundai Classic there not too long ago. And right where that meets the ocean is a famous bay called Honolulu Bay. It's really famous for surfing and for snorkeling. And then just south of there is is basically the start of Kapalua, and then it goes on into Kaanapali and Lahaina, which we'll see on our return.
Make noise lah.
Now, as we come up here, we're making our way away from Maui, and we're going to cross over to Molokai. Now, in order to get to Molokai, we have to cross this body of water, and this is called the Pailolo Channel. Now, Pailolo in Hawaiian translates to the crazy fisherman, and that's because the current in the Pailolo is extremely strong. Now, the channel's only about 8 miles across. It goes down 800 feet deep, but on our right is open Pacific Ocean, and all that wind and swell pushes in between Maui and Molokai like a bottleneck, and the current picks up quite rapidly. And in the history of the Pailolo, there's only been 34 people that have successfully swam the channel. So if that's on your to-do list, I would let someone know.
No, thank you.
Now, as we make our way up here, we're transitioning to the northeast side of Molokai, and we're doing it for one reason. It's for this little island that's right off the coast here. This little island is quite famous, and it has several names. Its Hawaiian name is Mokoho'oniki, which means little pinches of rock. But the locals on Molokai call it Turtle Rock, and that's because they say it looks like a sea turtle swimming down the channel. The larger island on the right is like the turtle's shell. The little island on the left is his head coming up out of the water. And as we get closer, you're going to see a chunk of rock coming out of the shell towards us like a flipper flapping up or down in the water. You got to have an imagination, but he's there. Now, as we come up on the north side of our turtle here, does anyone like magic?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I got one magic trick. I've been working on it. I want you guys to stay looking at our turtle. I'm going to wave my hand in front of it, say presto, and I'm going to turn him into a sleeping elephant. So the way I'm going to do that is you guys are only going to look at the turtle's shell, and you're going to notice it's going to morph into a laying down sleeping elephant. His tail's closest to us, head is farther away, and what was the turtle's flipper is now the elephant's trunk going out into the water.
Oh, how
Almost
cool.
like he just decided to lay over on his side and take a nap.
That's awesome.
Now, is that the first time you've seen a turtle turn into an elephant?
That's good.
Now, as we make our way up here, we're going to transition on to Molokai. A couple of things. Molokai is not as populated as the other islands. Only has 7,400 people that live here, and it sees less than 80,000 visitors a year. The only way to get here is an island jumper airplane, a ferry that leaves once a day out of Lahaina, or charter a private aircraft. But once you're on island, there's only one hotel, one car rental place, 2 gas stations, and 3 restaurants. And those they're 2 grocery stores are like your town stores. You're going to buy your burger next to your hammer, so keep that in mind. As we come up here, we're crossing over this paved road. This is the only paved road. That paved road is the only paved road, and it doesn't go the circumference. It only goes from the east side down to the south and over to the west side. You cannot drive all the way around. Now, the road does go all the way to our right, and it goes down into the valley here, and the road ends right by the ocean at the bottom of the valley, and there's a gorgeous little town there and 2 incredible sand cove beaches. And then the opposite side is an amazing multi-tiered waterfall. And I'm going to do some turns so everyone sees both sides. It's absolutely stunning.
Why isn't it more inhabited?
What's that?
Why isn't there more people that live here?
Well, mainly it's predominantly Hawaiian on the island. The majority of the island is National Forest Reserve, so it's restricted and protected, and they don't want it developed. Almost the entire inhabitants here doesn't want any more development. They want to keep it in its natural state. Now, if you do come to Molokai, there's only one tour operator that has the right to get to the very back valley here. And that very back valley at the bottom of the first pool is the farthest point that anyone can make it in here. You have to cross state and private land to get there. And then everything else I'm going to show you here on out on the northeast side of Molokai is only accessible by air. It's all protected national forest, and it's restricted. No hiking trails, no roads. Now, as we make our way up here, if you guys look straight ahead, you'll notice the ground is disappearing quite rapidly. And that's because we're going to come right off the top of the famous sea cliffs of Molokai. They are the world's tallest, and at certain points they eclipse over 2,600 feet. Now, as we make our way up here, we're going to come right up alongside Papala'ua Falls, which is straight ahead of us. It is one of the more prolific waterfalls on the island. It stretches 1,600 feet roughly, and it's all fed from rainwater, and it's flowing really nicely today.
Take this one, I think this one is good. Yeehaw.
Now, as we make our way alongside the cliffs here, about 1.3 million years ago, there was a volcanic earthquake, and 25 miles of Molokai fractured and slid off into the ocean to the right of us. And that's what gives us this very prolific sea cliff instead of a natural erosion like you typically see on the West Maui's or on the north side of Haleakala. Off to our left, you can see into the Wailau Valley. It does transition in and parallel us as we make our way along here.
Aloha iano, mo I olele, ikalele ake ao, ino ka moana. Aloha iano, o vai o inu, kapani lele vai.
Now, if you guys look straight ahead, you can see that peninsula coming out from the land. That is called Kaliapapa. And in the 1830s, leprosy was discovered here in the Hawaiian Islands. And the Hawaiians would actually take the infected, deposit them on that peninsula, and pronounce them dead at the time. It wasn't until 1850 when Father Damon came along, he started a mission, a church, and a clinic that they started getting the proper care that they deserved at the time. As it sits today, you can take a donkey ride down the cliff face to the town and the facility and do a tour there. And there's 6 lepers that live there on a volunteer basis just to maintain the historical significance of it. Now, as we come up here, I'm going to take you guys inside the Pelekunu Valley. It's wide open. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's all part of that protected national forest here, and it's just incredible that they keep it pristine like that and let us fly it. Now, as we make our way into the back of the Pelekunu Valley, it might start to look a little familiar. And that's because the Pelekunu Valley and the Wailau next to us were both used in a lot of the aerial scenes that you see in Jurassic Park 3 and in the New World. Almost like they should have left a T-Rex down there, huh? Or they could have and we don't know about it. Now, as we come up here, I want you guys to take a look out the left side of the aircraft. And you'll notice that the Pelekunu Valley goes all the way to the ocean. Then we're going to cross over straight ahead of us into the Wailau Valley. And if you remembered, I pointed out that came in from the ocean. Well, when you combine these two valleys, they make a giant half circle. And that's because we're actually flying inside the remnants of what is called the Wailau crater. And this is the volcano that formed the east side of Molokai. Now, keep in mind, the last time it erupted was about 1.7 million years ago, so the erosion and vegetation has taken over, but it is quite unique to fly inside an extinct volcano. Looks just like home, right? Now, as we make our way up here, we're going to cheat and we're going to hop over the backside of the Wailau Valley here. And this is where the majority of the inhabitants lives, but it's also where the South Shore Fringe Reef is. And you guys are going to see the ocean just come alive with color as we come over the ridgeline. It's absolutely incredible. Now, as we come up here, we're going to transition out over the top of the Fringe Reef. Now, this is the largest fringe reef in the United States. It stretches over 30 miles long. And a fringe reef means that it grows outward from the land instead of down. So this gives us a lot of amazing bonuses. One, we get these incredible colors, all these blues and teals and greens. They really, really pop. And also, they're enhanced by the blue and green coral that grow alongside this reef. And we're going to descend down, and depending on the day and what the reef wants to unveil, we do spot sea life from time to time. Turtles, rays, sharks. It just depends on what the reef wants to unveil. You will see these man-made circles coming out from the land. Now, those are the Molokai fish ponds. They were built by the ancient Tahitians when they first arrived here on Molokai. And what they would do is they were all above water. They would leave a small opening so fish could swim in. Then when they had enough of them, they would block that opening, wait until the fish grew to where they couldn't swim out, and then they would open it up and repeat the process again and make a natural forming fishing pond. Just incredible, huh?
Beautiful.
Doesn't even look real.
You have seals here?
Yes, the seals all through Hawaii are called the Hawaiian monk seal, and they're indigenous to only the Hawaiian Islands. They're actually very endangered too. There's roughly only about 200 of them left.
That's still Molokai as far up there as you can see.
Yep. It's a really long, stretched out island. But you're getting closer to the dry side over there. It's very desert atmosphere. Now, if you look in here, you can see these blue holes that are in the reef. Now, there's 5 famous ones for scuba diving, and they descend down into the reef 100 feet. To give you guys an idea how old this reef is, coral reef grows at 1 inch per year. So you're looking at several thousands of years worth of growth here. Now, as we come up here, we're going to leave Molokai and we're going to cross back over to Maui. On our right, you got a gorgeous view of the island of Lanai today. Now, Lanai is known as the Pineapple Island, and that's because at one time Dole pretty much owned the entire island, and it was a giant pineapple plantation. Then in 1995, Larry Ellison, the owner of Oracle, came along. He started buying up land, and he now owns 98% of that island. And the other remaining percent is owned by a few individuals and the state of Hawaii. There is a small airport and a town in the middle of it, and then the south side there's a harbor, and there's 2 separate 4-season hotels on the island with a couple of golf courses. And because of that, it's set up a little more for tourism, and it does see over 10,000 more visitors a year than Molokai, even though there's only roughly a little over 3,000 people living on the island. Everyone doing good? Comfy still? AC blowing good? Yeah?
Good.
Yeah,
Excellent. Gorgeous afternoon, huh?
it is.
over there on the right, is this a cruise ship?
Yep.
How often do you see them here?
They come in quite a bit. It depends on which cruise line, whether it's like Celebrity or Carnival or Disney. Just depends on who's coming through. They're always going to dock here off of Lahaina, though, because it's the only area that's set up to take a ship that big here on Maui. Like when we took off the harbor on the north side, they do have a small cruise ship that goes in there, but that's the Hawaiian Line one, and it only goes between all the Hawaiian Islands. It doesn't actually depart from the area.
Ah, okay.
I think we've seen one come in about every 3 days.
Yeah.
Although was there one here yesterday too? Yeah, so there's one yesterday and today.
How fast are we flying?
Right now, we're actually doing pretty good. Normally, we're at a headwind right now, but we seem to have a nice solid crosswind, so we're clocking at about 125 knots across the ground. So probably close to 140 miles an hour, somewhere in there. Not too bad.
What is a knot?
It's
point
like
what?
it basically you round it up. It comes out to be about 1.2.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, as we come up here, we're coming up on the west side of Maui. The far left is Kapalua. Right here next to us is the Kaanapali coastline. You can see Black Rock right there in the middle. Now, you can cliff dive off of Black Rock if you guys are adventurous enough. There's gorgeous sand beach, though, on either side of it. And then just straight ahead of us, we're going to actually pass on our right is going to be Lahaina. And you can always find it by that white stack coming up out of the middle of it there. And that's going to be the old sugarcane mill stack from when they used to process sugarcane on this side of the island.
Do they ever have problems with sharks?
Well, it depends on what you mean. I mean, we do have every kind of shark that exists in the ocean here in the Hawaiian Islands, but there hasn't been an attack in quite some time on Maui. As we make our way up here, we are passing by Lahaina, and Lahaina is actually very significant in Hawaiian history. First off, the name translates to cruel sun, and if you take a look, it's quite brown over here, not a lot of vegetation, and that's because the rain never quite makes it to this side of the island. Also, when King Kamehameha conquered the Hawaiian island chain, he made Lahaina there the capital of Hawaii. And it stood as the capital of all the Hawaiian Islands all the way until 1959 when we transitioned it to Honolulu when Hawaii became state number 50. It was one of two of the major whaling ports here in the Hawaiian Islands. Whaling took off in the 1820s, went all the way until 1880. Then they discovered oil in Pennsylvania, and that pretty much killed the whale oil trade overnight, and sugarcane and pineapples took over as the cash crop. And you can still see the ground around us is terraced from when they grew both of those here on this side of the island.
What does spell on the side mean?
What does a white elf stand for?
Sorry, what was that?
The L on the left side, what does that mean?
It stands for Lahaina. And then high school is right below it, and the kids go up and paint the 1-6 in the bottom for class of 2016 graduating. So next year they'll update it to 2017.
I thought it meant left.
No.
Awesome.
Now, as we make our way up here, we've traveled into a very unique part of Maui. One of the most amazing things about Maui as an island is it has every single climate zone or microclimate that exists on the planet, except for two. The only two it's missing is extreme desert heat and extreme Arctic cold. And right now we're flying over a desert climate zone. On the ground there are cactuses and other desert plants. But I'm going to be taking you guys inside the West Maui Mountains here. It is open, and this is the second wettest place in the Hawaiian Islands. Now, this is Laniapoko Valley, and it's only accessible by air. It's also one of my favorite transitions because it's the quickest transformation from a desert environment to a rainforest environment you'll ever experience in your lifetime. You guys are actually watching the rainforest grow from the valley floor right now. You're going to see it grow up the sidewalls, and when we get into the back, you'll see full-on rainforest canopy through the back valley. It's an incredible transformation to watch happen so quickly.
You guys get a fair amount of flash flooding over here?
All over the island. There's no one spot. It's flash floods everywhere, depending on how much rain falls. Now, as we come into the back valley, it's absolutely gorgeous in here. You have Olowalu on our right, Ukamahami straight ahead. The whole valley floor is covered in these lightly colored trees. These are kukui trees. That's the state tree of Hawaii. It's also known as the candle nut tree, and that's because the Hawaiians would extract oil off the husk of the nut and make candles out of it and use the leftover nut as the guy's lei, known as the kukui nut lei. Now, as we come around here, we're going to make a turn and we're going to go into the Iao Valley. It is open. Now, it used to be accessible in the front part, but due to the recent storms and flash flooding, it has washed out access, so it's been closed to the public. So the only way to see it is to fly it. And happens to be what's called the Kahalavai volcano, which is what formed the West Maui's, erupting about 1.3 million years ago.
So this valley you're talking about we're coming into is the one that you can drive up into?
What's that?
The valley that we're coming into is the one you can drive up into, but
you
it's
can't
closed?
Anymore. Yep.
Is it washed out or something?
You couldn't drive into it. You could just access the front part. That was it.
Okay, because I think we started up this way the other day and they had it closed, yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, you used to be able to access the front part of it, but now you can't anymore. It's absolutely stunning in here. And you guys are going to get a treat because the next valley over is called the Waikapu Valley. It is open, and it's absolutely stunning. It has walls that are steep, and they go all the way down to the ground to a rainforest. On the right will be an amazing little waterfall, and then it opens up to a gorgeous view into the Valley of Maui. Now I am on with tower, so I may get cut off, but we're coming out next to Wailuku and Kahului, and then off to our right is HCNS. We're coming up alongside the HCNS sugarcane plantation. It is the only active sugarcane plantation.
So do you know what they plan on growing now that they're getting rid of sugar?
Sorry, what was the question?
You know what they plan on growing now that they're going to discontinue the sugar?
They haven't announced it yet. Now we are making our way back into the airport. It's straight ahead of us. When we get in there, I want you guys to remain seated. Wait until the aircraft is on the ground. I'll tell you to take your headsets off, and then I'll tell you to take your seatbelts off after I shut the engine and rotors down. And then I'll be happy to come and grab the doors for you. I want to thank everyone for choosing us at Maverick Maui. It was my pleasure flying with you, and we should be on the ground shortly. I'm going to leave you guys till we get on the ground. I got to pay attention as we make our way up here. Sound pretty good?
Okay, thank you.
You guys can take your